From the burning mesas of the Arizona desert to the slot machine-clad boardwalks of New Jersey, it's the Imaginarium with Scott and Todd. I'm Scott Colbert.
And I am the horror nerd, Todd Staruch.
And this is the Technical Issues Up the Ass episode.
Yes.
Yes. And
we're going to try this again.
And this is only the third time.
That's true.
Third time's a charm. Although the second time, we got about a half an hour into it before things fucked up. So, yes. But we are back on Skype again this week. Normally we use Zencastr. And Zencastr is it's great when it works. And it had been working wonderfully up until it got out of beta. So I'm not quite sure what that's about. However, I'm going to send some bug reports in about that and see what they say.
Yeah, it seems to be an application where there's no middle ground. Like it either works, it's either amazing or it sucks.
Yeah, and today it sucks.
Yeah,
so back on Skype. All right, so this is also, as I have said for the third time now, the Politics Free Show as well.
Yes. Yeah, well, it was almost politics free, but it certainly wasn't bitching and moaning free.
No.
I complained about food snobs and, Well,
see, the thing is, we're going to go back into that and pretend like we never even talked about it.
Which is not that difficult because I have the attention span of a hamster.
Well, that and we're a couple of old farts too. So
exactly, yeah. So I don't remember anything that I said. So it'll be like for the first time.
It's like we're giving ourselves roofies.
Damn it, Scott! Listen, I told you didn't have to do that. Nice bottle of wine will do just fine.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
And this, as I said, this is Politics Free Show, but I'm going to give a shout out to my cousin Michelle, is the other lone holdout in this election because, as everybody who listens to the show knows, all three of them, this election has been a strain within my family. So it's going to make Thanksgiving next week a lot of fun. But she and I are the holdouts, so we have each other to console, and it's kind of brought us a little bit closer together, which is really kind of cool. So there is that. And in fact, she actually told my family off in a rather somewhat diplomatic way. She told my sister and my mother, "I love you both, but I just I can't follow you anymore. I just can't deal with your nonsense."
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, well, you've got bigger balls than I do to do that. So anyway, shout out to Michelle. Much love to her.
Yay, Michelle.
Yes. And she knows what it's like to be targeted. She's as I say, she's half Korean. But you couldn't tell that she was half American because she's got the full Korean look.
Okay.
And it's so funny. She looks Korean, but her last name is Murphy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that always gives me a giggle.
Yeah, it would have been better if it was like O'Houlihan or something like that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Well, Murphy is what you get. Okay. So anyway. So, as I said, shout out to her. Oh, I know what we talked about. Say, Todd, have you seen the new Kong Skull Island trailer by chance?
I have, and the 10-year-old in me cannot possibly wait to see that movie in the theater. I literally cannot wait. I'm counting the days.
Oh, I thought you meant you ate a 10-year-old.
Hey now.
I saw that. I saw it last night, and I jizzed my pants when I saw it. I won't lie.
Or maybe peed your pants.
It may have been pee, As I said, at my age, I can't tell which one it is anymore. Other than I had to change my pants or my depends, I guess. But I was very excited by it in a way that I haven't been excited by a movie trailer in a very, very long time. Yeah, and we touched on this earlier about people always complaining about the shit that Hollywood turns out, and I've been guilty of saying that to a certain extent, and I won't really backtrack on it because I think there's a lot of crap that comes out of Hollywood these days. But as we've also said, it comes out in every decade, every year, so it's not necessarily a new thing. It's just, I think maybe because the crap that comes out now is so much more expensive, than some of the. Do you know how many movies could have been made in the 40s and 50s for the budget of a Batman or an Avengers movie?
I can't even comprehend it. Like, I just can't even comprehend or think about what they would have been able to do back then. We talked about Kong. As far as the new trailer has so many more creatures in it, these giant creatures, and a lot of that was included in the original treatment for the 1930s King Kong, but they just didn't have the budget for it. Like they were barely able to build the armature for Kong, because the effects were very advanced for that time. So, imagine the budget if there were, fewer budget restrictions back then, what could have been accomplished.
Absolutely. And I was actually thinking about The Wizard of Oz. I mean, how cool would The Wizard of Oz have been if they had that kind of budget then? They would have been able to have afforded to create a real Emerald City, not just painted a fucking backdrop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to think about it, and something. When they say, here's something we didn't touch on the first go around this evening. Imagine the Wizard of Oz, the original didn't exist. Yeah. The Judy Garland version didn't exist, and they were going to make it. They were going to make it today. There would be a fully realized Emerald City and a fully realized tornado and things like that. It would be much more realistic. There would be no matte, painted backdrops or anything like that. There's the danger that there would be too much shitty CGI. Yeah. Why have a human scarecrow? Let's just make him all CGI and make him look completely fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So everything, I guess, has its dangers.
Although, you're right. I think it would probably just be a CGI to death. But I will say the tornado in the original Wizard of Oz still looks pretty fucking kick-ass.
It does. And I know people criticize, people look at it and go, oh, that's obviously a matte backdrop. Oh, that's obviously. And I'm like, well, of course it was. You can't think of it in terms of today's technology, I remember when Terminator 2 came out and how blown away everybody was.
Oh, yeah.
By the special effects. Holy shit, how did they do that? I just saw Doctor Strange, and my brother and I looked at each other and said, how the fuck did they do that? Wow. The movie magic is just unbelievable, Now,
that's something I haven't said in a long time.
Yeah, okay. The effects in it's a very trippy movie because, of the type of a character that he is.
Yeah.
But the visuals, I mean, I thought of it as like Inception on steroids.
Wow.
Is the way I thought about it. Yeah, it was cool. If you haven't seen Doctor Strange, you should try to check it out.
Oh, I definitely want to. I really
it.
do. I haven't been able to get down to see it yet. But it's on my list because that was one of my most look forward to movies this year because I absolutely love that character.
Yeah, me too. I was telling my brother I always was a little bit more of a fan of sort of like the one-off characters.
Yeah.
I was the guy that liked, Doctor Strange and Ant-Man and, sort of like the second tier, characters, if you will.
Well, because I think they had a little bit more personality.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying.
They're not really like the archetypes. I mean, let's face it. Superman is really just kind of a boring character.
Funny you should say that. While he was always one of my favorites, mainly because at the time that the Christopher Reeve movie came out, I was a kid. And to me, it was just amazing. I still love that movie.
Oh yeah.
But even in the comics, it got to a point where, and not to go too much in the comic books for this show, but that's why the whole death of Superman came about, because he became so godlike, he was no longer relatable. How do you relate to how does a human relate to an invincible character that has a superior moral code?
Yeah.
There's just no way. You can't relate to a hero like that. Whereas guys like Doctor Strange, or Stephen Strange and Tony Stark are deeply flawed people.
Yeah. Superman is definitely a lawful good character.
Yes. Yeah.
To put it in. to really geek out, I suppose.
Yeah.
And Batman is a flawed character too, and I say they're the one note, but that doesn't mean I don't like them, because I love these characters. But I mean, if you can be objective about them for a moment, there really is, exactly what you said. How much can you empathize with somebody like Superman, who has all of these abilities? Batman, even you may not always agree with something that he does, but you can empathize and sympathize with the character because of what he's been through and his motivation for why he does what he does.
Right.
Right. Revenge and loss are, probably two of the biggest things that humans feel.
Sure.
People may not want to admit about the revenge, but I'm pretty sure that's been on everybody's mind at least once in their life.
Oh, please. At any given moment, I'm thinking about the people I'd like to fucking kill. At any random point during the day. I'm like, God, I'd like to punch that dude right in the face. Yeah.
All I have to do is open up Facebook to do that.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of Facebook, let's talk about that post real quick. Because you made a post about if the fat-free foods were so good.
Yeah.
Why,
I said, why did they make
that
the original version?
Yeah. And you said that in jest, and I knew that because I know you well enough to know when you're jesting. But then you had somebody who took it so seriously, and it was the first comment too. Now, I have to say, I knew there was going to be that kind of a comment somewhere along the line. I just knew it, as sure as I'm sitting here on my couch playing with my balls. I knew that was coming.
Nice.
But I didn't expect it to be the first one.
Yeah, and you're totally right about that. And they're always. It never fucking fails. I post something that was clearly meant to be a joke, and the way it came about was, one of my favorite snacks is salt and vinegar potato chips. I'm a salty snack person, and one of the ladies in the office also is, and she was so excited yesterday. She's like, look, they had salt and vinegar potato chips downstairs, but it's the fat-free kind. And I'm like, I don't care. Open that bag, And they were fucking terrible. They just were not good. And I get it. Okay, we're trying to eat a little bit better. And then I'm thinking, all right, they're fat-free, but what kind of chemicals did they put in to replace the missing flavor? There's a reason that a ribeye steak is so good, because it's marbled with fat. Is it as healthy and lean? No, but that's a trade-off. And And you're right. So it never fails. Like I post something in jest and someone takes it seriously. And then on the flip side, if I write like a serious post about like a social issue or something, here comes Skeezix who has to make a fucking joke or,
Yep.
And it's like, all right, I have an irreverent sense of humor too, but not everything warrants a joke, like you don't have to be the fucking funny guy every goddamn time,
Yeah, I understand that.
You said this was the politics free show, but not the bitching and moaning free show.
Well, as long as we
Let's
have
not
breath,
get crazy,
as long as we are taking breaths, we are going to be the bitching and moaning show.
Exactly.
And going back to the food for a moment, as a nation and society, we're living longer, and people are saying, or the thinking is, well, if you eat healthier, you're going to live longer. And I'm beginning to think that it's not the eating healthy, but it's all the fucking chemicals and everything that's preserving us. So that's what's making us live longer. Because we're preserved.
Yeah, my blood is 37% formaldehyde now.
Yeah.
How about that?
Exactly. Yeah, so think about that the next time you open a can of Pringles.
Exactly. Ooh, Pringles.
Yeah, Well, a few months ago, Rob Dimension did a video with his son where they were talking about the different kinds of Pop-Tarts.
Yes,
and there was like the orange creamsicle Pop-Tart and the root beer float Pop-Tart and whatnot. Well, I picked up the root beer float Pop-Tart this last week, and they didn't like it, but I am here to tell you that sucker was good. That was a tasty Pop-Tart, and that was a really good flavor.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
See, I'm a weirdo. Well, I think people know that.
No shit.
When it comes to food, I'm not into things that are made to taste like other things. Like when they sell like Cinnabon flavored potato chips. No. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, no. I want potato chips that taste like potato chips. Like maybe a little sour cream and chive. I'll go, but all these like different flavored potato chips, like steak and gravy flavored potato chips. Like if I want steak and gravy, I'll freaking have that.
No, I did get the chicken waffle potato chips when those were out.
Now be honest, were they actually good?
If you go back and look at my Facebook postings about that, and I forget, it's maybe a year or so ago, I did like them. They were pretty good. But on the flip coin of that, they also came out with a Gouda cheese and chive potato chip, which wasn't nearly as good.
That just sounds awful.
Yeah. And then there was the Reuben sandwich potato chip.
Yeah, come on. There's really no need for that.
No, and that was awful too. So I stopped. I decided I'm not going to get any more of these fancy flavors because I don't know that my stomach could take anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, but you know what? My body can take. Wait. Let me rephrase that.
I have a list.
Boy, did that come out wrong.
Yeah.
You know what else might? Well, we're going to talk about science fiction movies today.
Okay. Alrighty then.
Oh, couldn't get through that one. Jerry Janda is, I know you know Jerry. You've at least heard
of him. He's
Yeah.
kind of a rumor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he really exists, but I think he does.
Sensei Jerry.
Yes.
Yes, Sensei Jerry. Well, we are unable to record a weekday matinee this month. So we're going to attempt and do our best to do one here. And we're going to do 3 movies instead of 5, because I just can't tolerate you for 5 movies. No.
Listen, I sometimes can't tolerate myself. So,
oh shit. Um, so we're gonna have our three of our favorite science fiction movies, not necessarily our favorites of all time, but just three favorites. Uh, because I decided I can't really name any one movie as my favorite of all time of any genre, because it's just given it's prone to change at any given moment.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that as well.
But I think three of our favorites is a little bit easier to accomplish, and plus a dog turd.
Yeah.
So, and you've got a dog, so I'm sure you'll have a dog turd somewhere.
I absolutely. There's probably some around.
The furry shit machines.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are.
All right, so my first one is probably an obvious choice, although it may be a surprise to some, because it's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and people know I've never really been a big fan of Stanley Kubrick. Heresy, I know, to all the film snobs, but there you go. I just find his movies a little bit
That's it. We're fighting now.
too antiseptic and too cold and detached for my taste. Outside of a couple, one being 2001, which really is a cold and detached kind of a movie. But the other one of his that I absolutely love is A Clockwork Orange.
Mm.
And I debated on putting that on my list of Clockwork Orange, because that has science. It's kind of science fiction-y. But I opted for 2001 because I really do like this movie. I didn't understand it. I'm not even sure I totally understand it now, but certainly not when I first saw it when I was a young, impressionable youth. I thought it was boring and it made no sense. And that actually really hasn't changed much, but I enjoy it and I can see it for what it is. And the cinematography and the music, and you really have to admit, even today, some of the special effects and stuff that they did in that movie still look really goddamn good.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. To me, it definitely holds up.
Maybe not the gorilla suits at the beginning of the movie, but it's what gorilla suit ever really looked good.
That's true.
At any time you've ever seen somebody in a gorilla suit, you never thought, holy shit, that's a good-looking gorilla suit. No, or you said, oh, I can see the zipper in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's. I mean, aside from its iconic status, it's just a beautiful movie, and it's something that you can really kind of get yourself lost in. Especially if you live in a state where you have medical marijuana or marijuana is legal now. You can enjoy it even more. Unfortunately, that's not Arizona. That recreational marijuana got voted down this year. I'm
a little surprised by that, actually.
Well, people were too stoned to get to the fucking polls.
Yeah. I guess.
So that's what happens. You can't blaze up on election day. You got to get your ass out there. So, all right, that was semi-political, but not really.
Well, speaking of 2001, my old job, one of my responsibilities was I was in charge of our mainframe. And when we upgraded, we were an IBM shop, and an IBM mainframe needs to have a discrete machine name, and I named ours HAL 9000. So that just shows the influence of 2001. I said, what better name to give a computer that runs our entire company? And it was only because at the moment I didn't think of Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and between Skynet and HAL, we're just fucked. So,
Yeah, we are. But still, yeah, definitely a good movie, and the overture in the beginning is awesome. You
cannot hear
music,
that.
The score, everything is great.
You cannot hear that opening. I think what was it? Thus spake Zarathustra.
Zarathustra, yeah.
Yeah. You cannot hear that and not think of 2001 anymore.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
it's just, it's a masterpiece, and that's my first pick.
Excellent one.
Yes.
My first one is maybe a little bit obvious as well, and for that reason, I almost didn't include it. But then I said, no, I have to, because the influence, I mean, it literally influenced everything sci-fi related. Fritz Lang's Metropolis.
Yep. Yeah.
Again, an obvious one, but I had no choice. I almost didn't include it, like I said, but then I'm like, no, everything that came. I mean, it kind of set the template for robots, megacities, dystopia, mad scientists. Like it had all of that.
Yeah.
And every sci-fi movie after that holds some kind of sway. I can't think of the fucking word I'm looking for, but a debt of gratitude to Metropolis. And at the time, people didn't like it. H.G. Wells trashed it. He said it was the silliest film he ever saw. Critics didn't like it. And then it went and became like one of the most imitated sci-fi films of all time. And again, and speaking of special effects, for the time, 1927, you get a feel for the scale of what they were trying to do. City skyscrapers, elevated highways, that kind of thing. And it's somewhat relevant, the idea of, the underclass of workers, believing that, technology was gonna save them, is a little bit relevant, what we've seen in the country with loss of manufacturing jobs and things like that. So again, I don't have it, but I think there was a Blu-ray edition that came out recently, where it was fully restored. I definitely want to get my hands on that because I haven't actually watched it in a long time. And I want to do so again. It's just a great, great movie.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one. And it certainly did have its influence. And even today, I don't think we would probably have half of the science fiction stuff that we have today were it not for Metropolis. And I know they did this not that long ago, well, within the last few years anyway. Here in Phoenix, they played Metropolis with a live orchestra.
Yeah, they did that. They did that in New York as well. I didn't get a chance to go, but yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to go either because the ticket prices were out of my range by the time I decided I wanted to go. But that would have been such an awesome thing to experience. Seeing that movie on the big screen. I mean, because it's impressive enough seeing it on your TV screen. Even for a 1927 movie, as you said, but to see that on a big screen with a full orchestra, holy mackerel, that would be good.
Yeah.
So, okay.
What do you got?
My next one, and I've talked about this before on this show, and especially on Weekday Matinee. This really is one of probably in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And that's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, that was on my list too. Before I narrowed it down, it was one of the first ones that popped into my head when I started thinking about today's show.
Oh yeah, well it was on mine, and aside from it being a fantastic movie, it was just a cool experience. I went to see it with my father, and it was one of the few times it was just me and him going and doing something. Because being a policeman, his schedule is all wonky. So when he and I got to spend some time together like that, it was kind of special. And Close Encounters was one of those times. And Star Wars came out the same year. I was more blown away by Close Encounters than I was with Star Wars. And I think it's because I like movies that are somewhat grounded in reality, either with characters that I can relate to or situations or whatever the case may be. So I think that's why I gravitated more towards Close Encounters, because I really, really just related to the Richard Dreyfuss character. Even at an early age, I knew I was kind of nuts. It's a Spielberg movie, and he does a fantastic job with it. I think it's probably one of his best, next to Jaws. It's just beautifully done. And I've got the 30th anniversary edition, which has 3 discs, and it's got 3 different versions of the movie. There's like the theatrical version, an extended version, and I think the third is like a TV version. But I generally always just watch the theatrical version because that's the one that I grew up on. That's the one that I like the most. And the extended version doesn't really add a whole lot to it. But it cemented my love for Richard Dreyfuss and anything. It really kind of sparked my interest in space and aliens.
Yeah, it's tough to not include this on any top sci-fi movie list, and to think that there are, just to touch on something real quick. I was speaking, not to invoke Rob Dimension's name again, but he and I talk a lot about art and film and, bounce ideas off each other and such. And we talk about, these people, these trolls on Facebook, who can't think of anything better to do. And they throw out stuff like, I don't know how anyone could like Steven Spielberg. He's such a hack. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Steven Spielberg's just a hack. You're right. What have I been thinking all these years? God, what an idiot I am, But, like any director, and a successful one at that, he has his detractors, But I have always, whether it's E.T. or Jaws or Close Encounters, he is good at playing with and being in tune with audience emotions.
Yeah.
Whether it's fear in Jaws or even Close Encounters, what the mother is going through, when her son disappears, and Richard Dreyfuss thinks he's just going crazy. He has no idea what's really happening to him. Spielberg is just great at that. And I'll tell you, the last 15 minutes of that movie, when that mothership comes up behind Devil's Tower, I still get chills every time, every single time.
Yeah.
And how cool, I like the synthesize, when they're trying to communicate, with the musical tones. I thought that was ingenious because, in the end, music is really just mathematics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it too. And, we think a lot alike. I knew that would be on your list. Like, how could it not be?
Yeah. And the thing about Spielberg is he's a storyteller. That's what he does best. He's not an artistic director. And I've seen these people who talk shit about Spielberg, and then you ask them, well, what director do you like? And then they name some obscure Russian director who died in 1942.
Right.
Right. That nobody else has ever fucking heard of. And they probably never even saw a goddamn frame of their movies. They just saw the name listed in the book somewhere. So, I like Spielberg. I will always defend him. Has everything he made been great? No. But has everything we've ever done been great? No.
Has anything we've ever done even been good?
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
Not judging by this podcast.
Well, yeah.
So Spielberg is okay in my book, and I will always go see a Spielberg movie.
Me too.
So All right, what you got next?
All right, so I went a little more recent and maybe a little bit less well known than like the big blockbusters. We only have, we're only going to talk about three, so it was so hard for me because
Yeah.
there's so many out there. Blade Runner, all the biggies, E.T., whatever you want to name. I'm going to go with the one a little bit lesser known from 2009. It's a movie called Moon, and
Yeah.
it starred Sam Rockwell,
Yep.
and the voice of Kevin Spacey as a robot, directed by Duncan Jones. I absolutely love this movie. I don't want to give too much away for anybody who hasn't seen it, but let's just say the concept of cloning has never been examined quite this way, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
A very simple film. It's just one set, a handful of rooms, a couple of outdoor scenes, one character, and of course Kevin Spacey's voice as the robot. But I find it to just be a beautiful film, well written. And I like it because unlike a lot of sci-fi movies, it emphasizes like ideas and thoughts over like explosions and big space battles.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with those, like I love a good giant space movie, but every once in a while I like a sci-fi movie that's truly like cerebral.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what this was. And Sam Rockwell's performance is just amazing. Like to not have any other humans to interact with really shows what acting is all about, and the way he pulled it off. Anybody listening, if you haven't seen Moon with Sam Rockwell, you really should. It's one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And Sam Rockwell really is one of those underrated actors.
He is.
And he is so good in everything. Even the shitty Poltergeist remake, he was good in.
No, I haven't even seen it.
Yeah, well, it's not worth seeing.
Okay.
I did watch it. Sorry I did, because Poltergeist is one of my favorite movies. But I like him, and so I watched it just because of him. So Sam, if you're listening, I suffered for your art, and you owe me $13.50.
That would be fucking hysterical. Like all of a sudden you get a Facebook message. Scott, this is Sam Rockwell. Thank you for watching the Poltergeist remake on my behalf.
It's nice to know all three of you saw it.
Yeah. It's the Poltergeist remake is, I really do want to see it. Because I don't like to criticize things that I haven't seen, which is why I haven't said anything about it, Yeah. But it's not like it's high on my list.
Yeah.
If I happen to, be bored one night scrolling through Netflix, maybe I'll check it out.
Well, the thing about it is, it would have been an all right movie if they had called it something else.
Okay, one of those. Okay.
Yeah, there were enough differences in it that it could have been called anything else, and you really wouldn't have thought of it as a Poltergeist remake. So, but getting back to Moon, yes, that is a fantastic movie. And Duncan Jones, as most everybody probably knows, is the late David Bowie's son.
Yep.
And who went on to direct a big budget movie, Warcraft, this summer, which didn't do well in the States particularly, but did gangbusters overseas.
I haven't seen that either.
I like it. But I played Warcraft, and I still play it occasionally. So I'm very familiar with with the setting. And so I enjoyed it from that perspective, being able to see just about every place that I played in on the computer, on the game, being brought to life. I thought that was very cool. He does a good job with what he has to work with. Because Blizzard, is very particular about, their IP, and rightfully so. It's made them, billions of dollars.
Sure.
So, there's only so much he could deviate from, canon and the lore of the games. But anyway, Moon is a good one. And I also have a cerebral one.
Okay.
And this is a really, really interesting movie. And it's one that I watch probably once or twice a year from 1998. And it's Dark City.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
It's one of the few movies that I can tolerate that has Kiefer Sutherland in it. It's just, if anybody hasn't seen it, check it out. I want to talk about the plot, but just talking about even a little bit of it would give it away. And it's one of those movies that as you slowly see it unfold, you just, how fucking brilliant is this? And if I'm not mistaken, this was the follow-up movie from Alex Proyas after he did The Crow.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I believe you're right.
Well, if I'm not, I know somebody will point that out to me.
Sure.
So until that happens, that's my fact. I'm going to stick to it. It's beautifully shot. The performances are out of this world. And like I said, Kiefer Sutherland is in it, although he doesn't have a huge part. The part he does play is really kind of interesting. It's maybe a little bit against type for him. But it's still, Jennifer Connelly is in it as well. William Hurt, and I always loved William Hurt.
Me too. I was just about to mention that it has two of my favorite actors in it, William Hurt and Rufus Sewell.
Yep. Also has Richard O'Brien from Rocky Horror.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And the great Sir Ian Richardson.
That's right. That's right. You're quite right.
So it's got a fantastic cast. It's probably one of the best stories that I've seen in a science fiction movie. And it doesn't even really seem like science fiction. It's a very difficult movie to try and talk about. And like I said, not a lot of people, they may have heard about it, but I don't know that a lot of people have actually really seen it. And that's a shame because they should. And if you get the Blu-ray or the DVD, there's a commentary on it by Roger Ebert that is well worth listening to. It's probably one of the best commentaries on a movie that I've ever heard.
A couple of people have told me I'm missing out by not ever really, listening to any of the commentaries on DVDs and stuff. I think I need to start doing that because many people have told me that there are some that are really good.
Yeah.
I have Dark City on DVD. I'll have to do that. I'll have to.
Now, Rufus Sewell hasn't done a whole lot lately.
No, in fact, it's funny. While I was ignoring what you were just saying, I was actually looking him up to see what he's been up to, lately. And,
he's been in The Man in the High Castle. I didn't know that. No, I haven't seen that, so.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, so, I think it's an Amazon Prime thing. And
so he was in Gods of Egypt, and I heard that was awful, so that's probably why I didn't see that. He's been in a couple of movies each year, but nothing that I would probably ever go to see, you know.
What
Gods of Egypt, I had no interest in.
you wouldn't
Abraham
see
Lincoln
Blinky
Empire.
Bill the movie?
Yeah, probably not.
I have to take a look at that one. I've never even heard of Blinky Bill.
Blinky Bill, a computer animated adventure based on the Blinky Bill character, a koala.
Must be enough.
Created for a children's book in 1933. Oh, well, Scott, you probably read that as a kid, but I...
Well, one of the other things about Blinky Bill, the movie, is Barry Humphries is in it as well.
No kidding.
Yeah. He plays the voice of Wombo, which I'm going to assume is a wombat.
Now I have to see it.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, now you want to talk about a sidetrack.
Yeah, right?
All right, what's your next one? What's your other one?
Wait a second. Did I? Oh, right. Okay, so that you went first. I forgot. So, okay, I thought we were done. My next one is probably my all-time favorite sci-fi movie. I could not possibly tell you how many times I've seen it, but it's so many times I know every shot, every scene, every line of dialogue. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, that was on my list too.
Not only is it my favorite Star Trek movie, but just one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I'm a Star Trek fan. It had, just good versus evil. Ricardo Montalban, a great villain, a great starship battle. Admiral Kirk being a badass. The death of Mr. Spock, which I still get choked up every time, even though I know he comes back. But at the time, I was a kid, and it was very emotional at the time, because we didn't know, obviously, of what, that the third movie would be, Spock coming back. You had no idea at the time. But just everything about it is so cool. It's a very simple, it's not a complicated movie.
Yeah.
It's a simple tale of good versus evil. I loved how they wove, brought back the character from the original series. I thought that was very cool. They wove that in seamlessly, like I said, great starship battles, Captain Kirk being cool. And I just loved it. I love the interplay as always between the main characters. I never get tired of it. If I'm flipping channels and Star Trek II is on, I have to stop and watch it. I can't not do it. It's not possible for me. So are there, better like movies out there as far as maybe, source material in literature or better directed or what? Yeah, of course there are, but it's just a fun, space adventure.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a fun movie with one of the great continuity errors of all time.
Oh,
do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
When Khan first attacks the Enterprise, Kirk opens the flap on his uniform top, and it's white. And he is, as the action is happening, he touches the white part, and he leaves a bloody handprint on the top corner of the white square.
Right.
The next time you see the uniform with him in it, the handprint is now on the bottom of that white square.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very, very noticeable. I mean, every movie has continuity errors in it, but that one is a famous one for sci-fi movies and very, very obvious.
Oh, I never noticed that. Shows you how.
And now you'll know. Now you will, though.
No, I will.
Next time you see it, now you absolutely will. You'll be like, that's what Todd was talking about.
Yeah, that scene that's referred to, when Spock dies. I was dating somebody let's see, I want to say maybe in late 83, early 84, right in that area, right after I graduated high school. It was one of our favorite movies, oddly enough. And when we broke up, he talked about that scene and he said, I am now and always will be your friend. And, that seems kind of, corny now, but it wasn't at the time. And it meant a lot because, it was my first real heartbreak. And so I always have that attachment to that movie. But 32 plus years later, we're still friends. So I guess he meant that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's people. When I was a kid, I got picked on for liking science fiction. Like I always say, I was a nerd when you would still get your ass kicked for being a nerd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But people poke fun at Star Trek. But if you think about Star Trek at its core, like what is it? It's about friendship and honor and loyalty and humanity. That's all it really is about. It just takes place in space, and they have all these adventures. But at the end, it's the loyalty and friendship among the crew, especially the big three, that hold it all together. And again, when Spock's, the two things he says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And it is very touching when he says, I have been and always shall be your friend. That's why I was so pissed at Star Trek Into Darkness, because they tried to rehash Star Trek 2 with the roles reversed. And I'm like, no, fuck you. The reason it was impactful with Mr. Spock is because this relationship between those two had been built up like over decades. In the Star Trek reboot, they didn't like each other yet.
Yeah.
So Spock is crying, obviously, okay, it's the death of your captain and a crewmate. I get it. But no, I was like, I was so pissed I was pissed at the whole theater. I'm like, no, fuck you. That's just not right. I was never so angry at like an inanimate object in my life. I'm like, I was pissed at the projectionist and everybody. I was like, no, fuck all of you. But anyway.
All right. Well, here's my dog. And it has a good cast. Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Connelly and Kathy Bates and John Cleese and John Hamm. And it's the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah.
If ever there was a pointless remake, and I know we talk about, remakes all the time, but this one really, it didn't need to be made. And in the original, it was a parable about the perils of nuclear war. And of course, in the new version, they had to update it to make it more quote-unquote topical, as if nuclear war is no longer anything to worry about. And it's an environmental message, which pissed me off. Not that I have anything against the environment or anything like that. I just, it was a change that wasn't necessary. But it's just a very, very shittily done movie. And it also has Jaden Smith in it, too, which certainly doesn't help it.
Yeah.
The special effects were good, but, it just... And, I know a lot of people give Keanu Reeves shit, but I really like him. I really like him as an actor. I don't know why, but I do. From the first time I ever saw him in... I think it was The River's Edge, going back a long time ago. I liked him in that, and I've liked him in everything ever since. He just makes some really bad choices.
Yeah.
Like the last two Matrix movies.
Well, I don't blame him for those. He signed on, knowing it was going to be a trilogy. He can't help it that the Wachowski brothers, fucked it up.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah. All right, so that's mine. What's yours?
All right, so with this one, I know there's going to be two camps. People are either going to be like, Todd, you're so right, or they're going to be like, what in the actual fuck is wrong with you? And my dog, and it's a shame too, because I really love the book. My dog is Dune.
Huh.
I told you it might surprise you.
Yeah. It did, because I really like the movie.
You do.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I think it's beautifully shot. I think it has some cool shit, but I think it's bloated and overacted and like a disorganized mess. I so badly wanted to like it. I just can't. And while I love cerebral sci-fi, I don't mind a thinking man's movie, but I don't want to have to work so hard to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was very glad that I had read the book when I was in college, because I would really have never figured out what the fuck was going on. And what's funny is, of all the people to give it a positive review, I know Harlan Ellison really likes the movie.
Yeah, go figure on that one.
Right? Right? So, he always argued that, critics bashed it like on purpose. And it's like, well, I'm not sure that I buy that. Like, are there some critics out there that are just vindictive? Yeah, of course. But I think most of them are honest people, I try. I've watched it several times, tried really hard to like it, and I'm like, you know what? I can't like a movie just because I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I thought that. Did you see the documentary? Did you see Jodorowsky's Dune?
I haven't, but I was thinking about that. And
yeah,
now that would have been a good one.
Yes, and I think if he had been able to bring his vision, I think it would have been better. But yep, that's my pick for the sci-fi dog is Dune.
Well, I'm not going to fault you for that, because it is one of those love it or hate it movies, and I understand why you don't like it. I think David Lynch was certain, and now I love David Lynch.
I know,
but I maintain still that he was not the right director for that movie. They needed a director who was able to tell a straightforward story, not get very esoteric, and very, the way he got with it. But having said that, I've read the books, so I understood most of what was going on. I loved Kenneth McMillan, who played Baron Harkonnen. It was Kenneth something.
Harkonnen. It was played by who played Baron Harkonnen? I will tell you in a second. Kenneth McMillan, you're right.
Okay. I loved his performance, even though his Harkonnen wasn't quite what it was in the book. I really liked his performance a lot. I thought Sting was actually he was good to look at in the movie. That's pretty much.
I will kill him.
Yes.
Shut up.
Yeah, he's certainly wasn't a good actor in the movie, which is odd because he is a good actor. If you ever saw Brimstone and Treacle with him.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
No, there's a movie that should get some love sometime, Brimstone and Treacle. That's a fantastic movie. Anyway, I like Dune. For all of its flaws, it has a good cast, and I enjoy it. So.
Oh, it has a great cast. I mean, there's huge names in the cast, and a lot of well-known names. There's no doubt about that.
And I love the music for it too. And Asia did the theme song for it.
Yes.
So, but I like I said, I understand your dislike for it, and I can't hold that against you. That doesn't mean I won't.
Listen, expect nothing less.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. I've got some pumpkin spice muffins to make. Or not muffins, biscuits.
Okay.
Rolls, I'm sorry, rolls. Pumpkin spice rolls. From Pillsbury Doughboy. They were on sale at Walmart. And I thought, what better way to piss people off who really don't like the pumpkin spice thing than by making some pumpkin spice rolls and then posting about it on Facebook when they're made.
Oh, dude, go for it.
Because
you have to.
John's not is going to make a comment about that.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, you absolutely have to.
So I am off to do that. And
all right. Remember,
next week we will have Stockeye on the show, and that is going to be I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it's going to be an experience.
Well, it will be.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And because it's going to be kind of our anniversary show. The Imaginarium anniversary will be 2 years old on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
I know it. So look forward to that. And if you enjoyed this show, check out the other podcasts we have at thesupernauts.com, including my other show with, as I've mentioned before, Jerry Janda, the weekday matinee. And also, Wade and I will be doing another jailbait in the not too distant future, although I still don't know what movie we'll be watching for that. So that'll be coming up too. And until next time, may all of your journeys be filled with pure imagination.